Hello, hello. We are live. Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus live stream. We talk about all things sales, marketing, and technology. Hello. Happy, was it Friday? Welcome to,
It is.
where are you at the moment? You're in the Gold Coast.
I am. I'm down the Gold Coast today. Yes, indeedy.
Got a nice little view behind you.
Yes. Yes, the weather's not great today, unfortunately. On Wednesday it was beautiful, but it's a little dreary today. That's okay.
Well, I think, today we're going to be talking about what data helps you make the best business decisions. So, I'm trying to link it to what you're in your hotel. I guess the hotel's going to have like a reviews system, or they're going to have how many rooms are booked, or they're going to have how many staff are rostered on. So we'll delve a little bit more into that. And just while I see we've got some people on here, hello, welcome. We'd like to make today just a little bit more interactive. So if you can see in the chat, you can see just on the corner of the screen. I think if you're looking at me, you should see it that way. There's a interactive chat, so you can engage with us and talk to us, and we'd like to talk to you and answer your questions. So if you have a question or a comment, then yeah, let's have a chat. All right, so in the first instance, we wrote down a list of things of the types of data that you would use to make a business decision, and we'll get into a few examples. But the obvious ones might be number of leads. In terms of marketing, there's a whole bunch of other metrics that are, I guess, there. What are some that you would think of when it comes to marketing?
Marketing is tough because at times it's hard to see big picture ROI. Something you can look at if you're doing an email marketing campaign, it could be number of opens, number of clicks, number of unsubscribes. You could be looking at how many people are subscribing per week. So if you're trying to get more people on that email marketing list, how many gateways have they got to sign up to that list? How many of them are being utilized? There is a lot of data that you can find at that front end of the marketing journey.
Yeah, so I've just posted a comment in there as well, is what data do you use in your business?
Yes.
And while we're on that, like marketing and sales are very hand in hand. And so, sales, I already mentioned number of leads, could be what's your lead conversion rates. Now, the reason why you're asking these questions is like in a very small business, you could just feel it, you could sense it. You're in everything. If it's only you, well, then it's only you. So you can intuitively absorb that information. But when you start to get to a certain point of scale, you have to operate through other people. And so you can't have that filtered version of what's happening on the ground. Like I can't be in every meeting. We're having hundreds of meetings a month. I just don't have that many hours in the day. We have, client engagements and work happening that I can't see because, we're up over 30 staff now. So it makes it really hard to understand every little thing. So numbers become really, really important when I need to know things like, are we overstaffed or understaffed, or do we need to start recruiting? And I want to find that out with enough notice, because it takes so long to recruit somebody and to hire and to train and to get them on board, and it's quite costly and expensive. So I don't just want to do that for no reason. What I want to do is I want to predict and forecast as much as possible and say, this is the right reason to go and hire someone. Could be that maybe the numbers, if I look at the data and I will compare different things. So it might be, I look at how busy our people are on one hand, and then on the other hand, I look at what's our annual cycle for work. Maybe we're just at the end of our peak season. If I go hiring someone, then we're going to get to quiet month, and then I'm going to have an extra hand or an extra mouth to feed without the revenue coming in. So that's something you've got to be aware of as well. So data is really, really critical, because these violent swings and roundabouts happen so much bigger as your scale increases, and because information to you is delayed. So you need to try and get ahead of the curve. Like by the time you're figuring it out, if you're just going by feel and go, I feel like we don't have a lot of money in the bank, it's already too late. Or if you go, I feel like we need to hire someone, well, it's probably going to be about 3 months until you effectively get the right person in the role and up and running where they should be at. Anyway, sorry for the little rant there. That's been my thoughts. Why don't we go into other metrics that might be good, or do you have anything else that you want to share on that?
Just to close that loop, Avon, our feelings have no place in these types of business decisions. Like, it's really important that I always say data, not drama. And it's really important that you actually focus in on that data. We can't go, oh, I feel like you were describing. It's so important that we actually look at the data and the information, the tangible things, the hard and fast facts of any given situation, because otherwise we'll end up drowning.
Well, I know I mentioned like when me saying like I feel like my bank account is empty. That is a very personal number to anyone who's a business owner. And when you see that account empty, but like if you're not looking at the data, maybe in the accounts receivable there is a whole bunch of money sitting there, or maybe you've got project forecast revenue that's yet to come in that's not come in, or maybe there's a big expense that you weren't expecting and you still haven't got much in there. So that is a very raw, real number for a founder. And I think in terms of being able to predict anything, you need to bring together a lot of information. And the more you have intelligence on where that's coming from, the less or the better you sleep at night.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. You got to know where you're at all times.
So excuse me if you hear me cough. I do have I'm recovering from a severe dose of man flu, so I'll try and keep it to a minimum and mute myself if I get into a coughing fit. However, let's get into some of the other metrics that we might consider. So one, we were working with a client and they had 5 days of manual report creation every month. And they were collecting the info because we had all the systems set up. So then it was just about aggregating that data into a report and getting that report and presenting it to the board so that the board could make the decision. So when you get to that level, there's such a time delay between when things happen, when things get reported on, and when the decision gets made. So even just as simple as thing as doing your books, right? So if your books are up to date, you will know whether or not next month is going to be good or bad, or you know your position to a pretty good standard. And again, it's all historical. None of that is future based. So you need to combine your accounting system data, which is your historical, with your CRM sales forecast data, with your cash flow data, to then understand where you sit and what decisions you need to make. Otherwise, you're gonna shoot yourself in the foot. But like for these guys, what they did was with resourcing. Now, because they run sessions in multiple locations, they have people booking in to their sessions. Each session needs to generate X amount of revenue before it can run. If they don't have the staff to run that, they can steal from another location that's not booked out. And so that constant shuffling means they don't have to have an additional 2 or 3 heads at $80,000 a year each on standby to go and fill these spots. So it really helps reduce the amount of money that they've got to pour out in cost and massively improves their profitability. It might be using warehouse space. It might be when you order the next round of stock, maybe understanding what your usage is and how fast you churn through stock to go, well, we know that there's a project coming up for this client and they need 2,000 units. And every other client is ordering, on average 100 units a day. At this point is when we're going to do that big order instead of back here, because that's when we made the sale. And now you don't have an extra $1 million of stock on your warehouse floor, clogging it up, blocking it out, having to pay more rent because you've got to expand your warehouse. These decisions really, really stack up. And the better you are at data, you will save literally millions and millions of dollars. It's insane.
Cash on the table, friends. Now, on that note, Avon, I'm curious, so in that particular scenario, as an example, when the data starts to move in a different direction to what we're expecting, when is it just an abnormality, like something that's just happened? And when is it a trend? When do we take action, is my question.
Well, I usually say first is whatever, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a trend. Now,
Gotcha. Okay.
you can see that on a micro level, but on a macro level, when you got a lot of data, if there's something
Yeah.
unusual, first thing I'd look at is the quality of the data. Is something not being reported? Is maybe there's an IoT device that's tracking machine hours that's wigging out and providing false signals and then
Okay.
doing something on the graph. We also have things like AI in the analytics now to be able to flag any kind of anomalies. So, one thing might be on the support desk is if there's an unusually high acceleration in the number of support tickets coming through, that it will fire an alert to me. So then if I need to pick up the phone and start standing up additional resources to go and handle a influx, then I know that I can do that with a very in a timely manner, so that within an hour I can have an extra 5 people drop another task, come over, do the initial support triage to then make that customer service and it's basically like a Scrum methodology where you're there's a bottleneck over here, bring more resources, punch through that, move on to the next thing. Then there's an issue over there, punch through that, etc. And like a better customer service, faster response times, and you might even identify maybe there's a lot of tickets, but it's all for one problem. So then that's like problem management, where, and again, this is getting into more like tickety desk sort of stuff, but it's a we'll data point, so we'll allow it.
Great example. Yeah.
Delivery metrics. So, and again, that kind of goes back into resourcing. Like we're a projects and services business. So we have finite resources, they're quite skilled, but they've got a bandwidth. And so we have X amount of hours that they can deliver. And so we need to make sure that they're effective, and we can't have them, like sitting around twiddling their thumbs because they'll get bored and want to quit, or we're not optimizing the resource. And so we need to track number of their hours and their capacity, the number of billable hours that are being delivered, and then also the number of open projects, because the more projects you have on the table that are done, half done, kind of like pending, then the less bandwidth your team has overall. So by reducing the number of open projects, you increase your throughput, which means that with the same team, you can make more money.
Which is what we want.
Money is good. I like money. But
Money
it's not
is
everything. Certainly helps. As you hear the saying, I'd rather be crying in a Rolls than smiling in a Camry or something like that. But yeah, look, like there's different types of data, and we were talking offline before about how it's collected. Like there's all these GDPR laws and everything saying you can't collect certain amounts of data. I think that's true to a point. There's data about your environment. There's data about how people interact with you. Right now, on a human level, you have this form of data collection when you look at someone's reaction to how you say something. So if we break it into interrogative data, which is where I ask a question, and then detected data. So if I go, "How are you today?" and you say, "Good," interrogative data tells me good. Detected data tells me not good.
Body language.
And the same can be said, like when you've got a let's just say you're doing a survey of your customers, or you're getting your customers to fill out a form or something. Number of responses, that's like a qualitative measure. A quantitative, number of items. Qualitative might be some of them filled out 2 fields, some of them filled out all of the fields. So that's maybe with like a written response to say what they feel and think. That's more qualitative. So that I guess some things in that you can just ask, you get by asking. Some things you detect, like AI now does sentiment analysis on the written text to go, are they happy or not happy? What's the intent of what they're trying to say? So, there's 2 dimensions of information there, but that data can really give you an indication. Like we have some metrics within our CRM that tell us about the relationship health that we have with the client. Are we just starting out? Is it good? Are we in a high trust, strong relationship? Is it tense? Or are we at risk of losing them? And that is a metric that we keep in the back that we can kind of detect over time. And by using that, that just helps us to understand who are our strong relationships, how do we get more of them? Who are our at-risk relationships? How do we fix that and turn that around and turn them into strong relationships? Or maybe there's one that's tense and it's not good for either of us, and we shouldn't have been there in the first place. So how do we break away from those ones? So I think like data isn't always just about first name, last name, email, date of birth, hair color. Like all that is PII, or personally identifiable information. So in terms of GDPR, you don't have to go and collect so much of that. It could be, what's the average time of day that person opens an email? Now I know the best time to send something to you. I like to use hidden data. So when you're on a lead form on a website and you fill out a form, I've got a hidden field telling me what page you were on when you open that.
Ooh.
So now I know what you were thinking, what frame of mind you were in when I go and call that person.
Amazing. That's cool. Hidden data. Who'd have thought it?
It just makes the conversation a little bit more seamless, and it allows the system to pick up information that allows the user, to have a deeper conversation and detect certain things that aren't said. Instead of just getting, I've got a phone number from you and I have no idea who you are or why you're calling. They're like, oh, I see you were on our, for us, we're a Zoho partner. So I see you're on our Zoho page. It happened last night, got one come through. I know exactly what page they're on. And go, oh, tell me what you're interested in. Because they probably looked at 4 or 5 other things beforehand. And now I know I can narrow down to that. Anyway, I've done a lot of talking. Why don't we ask our audience, do you collect data? Oh, no, we have a spammer. Send me something for 50 gigabytes. I think we will.
Love a good spammer.
Yeah, block user. Sorry, that's not what we're after. No crypto spam, no BS. So you're out.
No thanks.
Okay, I have blocked the user and deleted the comment. All right, so, well, you're popular when you've got haters and spammers, and you're getting
so
the
true.
So,
Exactly.
if you're just tuning in, we're experimenting with the live chat in the corner. We did get someone. We have had times when I've done a live stream and we've had a heap of comments come through. Particularly 100%. When I did 50,000 subscriber video and my 100,000 subscriber, I had dozens of comments. I won't say hundreds because I'm not that popular yet, but dozens of comments yet. But we are trying a new feature where it comes on screen live. Yeah. So yes, we get a spammer and a scammer, but we're happy to delete. But in the other mode, and I could probably show you, but where we kind of we can bring it onto screen and then it kind of placeholds as a big one. But you've got to test. We're getting data.
We are getting data. How meta of us. Amazing.
And, we're getting view analytics from this. Our data's been trending up over time. So we know that when we talk about certain things that we get more interest than when we talk about other things. So maybe in the first instance, how do you get the data?
How do you get the data?
Try something and make a mistake.
That's right. Go break some stuff.
People are in the, entrepreneur world are giving kudos and praise to SpaceX for their way of doing things. Like if you can compare the NASA thing, methodology of launching a rocket is test everything 1 million times. Nothing can go wrong. Nothing can break. SpaceX is like, screw it, let's launch it and see what happens.
Exactly. Yep. Completely different approach.
And the data feedback is so much better because it's unmanned. And if they break something in the process, they'll learn faster. Probably deliver the rocket 5 years before what NASA would otherwise do. Look how fast they've gone already. And we're 100%. Up to 3rd, 4th, 5th generation, and they've been around for a blip on the radar as compared to NASA.
That's right. That's right.
So I think we've had a pretty good session today. Did you have anything else? I'm sorry, I feel like I've taken over the conversation.
No, you've nailed it. You've only coughed like twice. I'm so impressed. It's that role that's kept you from coughing. That's amazing.
Well, that and having a bit of a fit beforehand.
Yeah, yes.
Coughing
He's
first.
also very passionate about data, folks. Can you tell? He loves it.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. If indeed you will still are. I do appreciate everybody coming on, and even though we only had a spammer who was putting a comment in, we do appreciate people watching, and you can still leave comments, and they will still come up in the socials afterwards. So we do our best to go back and answer. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. You stay classy.
We'll catch you next time.